Good morning, Rabotai. We are on 16A3, right smack dab in the middle of the story, in fact, at the turning point of the story. So says the Gemara. Vayisaper Haman. Haman now walks in. We'll give you this right.
Yes.
Haman now walks in to his house. He is
the horse?
after the horse.
Okay.
His daughter's dumped the
And then she moved. She threw herself.
and then she throws herself off. So he's evel, mourning, v'chafui rosh, covered in the soiled.
Got it.
Okay. Says the Gemara. Vayisaper Haman leZeresh shtol chol ha'avav. So Haman now starts to tell Zeresh, his wife, and all of his friends, and he tells them at Kol Asher Karau. Now I want you to look downstairs for a minute in the notes. I want you to look and read the whole pasuk with me. Vayisaper Haman leZeresh eshto, and Haman tells his wife Zeresh, v'chol ha'avav et Kol Asher Karau, and all those that love him, everything happened. Vayomeru lo chachamav, and his friends and his wise men tell him, v'Zeresh eshto. Does anyone notice what just happened?
They repeat Zeresh.
Number one, good. What else?
Zeresh and then friends and his wife friends.
1 minute. So first it says, and he told Zeresh, Ulchol Ohavav, and all those that love him. Then it says, Vayomeru lo chachamav v'zera ishto, and his wise ones and his wife said to him, who are we missing here?
The intimate friends.
Sorry, the intimate friends. That means he starts off telling his problems to his wife and his beloved friends. And who answers him? His wife and his wise friends. On the surface level, that's because who's going to answer your question? Of your friends, the smart ones. But perhaps we'll see there are other ways of understanding what happened here, why we're noticing this subtle change in let's call it an audience of Haman. If this guy comes from the seed of the Jewish people, right? Mordechai, that you have begun to fall before him. You're not going to be able to overtake him. Again, I want you to notice the words that we're using. If this guy, he just says to them, guys, you don't know what I have to tell you what happened. My dear friends, ahlan wa sahlan. I have to tell you guys what happened. You know what happened? What happened is that this guy, who I hate him. He hates me. We're locked in this battle. Always me and Mordechai. I went to the king. I told him in the middle of the night. The king decided that Mordechai should be on the horse and I should be in front of the horse. And then I was walking past the house and sprints up from the roof. She dumped the thing on my head. He tells him the whole story. And they say to him, if Mordechai is from the Jewish seed, listen carefully. What does it say? If you have begun to fall before him, lo tuchalo, you will not overtake him. You will not be able to deal with him. Ki nafol tipol lefanav, because you will fall, you shall surely fall before him. So these words are super interesting. We already explained the idea of asher hachilota limpol lefanav, that you have begun to fall before him. What are we saying when we say that? By the way, I did not realize that you gave me a Farhi cup. That was genius. All right. Now, I want to say that again. It says clearly, Asher achilota limpo lefanav, that you have begun to fall before him. And we explained already the nature of the seesaw of Haman, of Esav and Yaakov. Okay? Good. So now let's go back to the Gemara. Kari le ohavav. In the beginning, we talk about the friends. Kari le chachamav. And in the end, we talk about the wise people. If someone says something that is smart, even if they come from a non-Jewish source, that's also considered chacham. That's also considered chachamim. By the way, just want to point out one thing. We have a famous line that says, "Chochma bagoyim ta'amin." If someone tells you, I was just in the Native Americans, and I was sat with the chief for 3 hours. The guy gave me life advice. You can't believe it. Raging Bull is a genius, and he's told me this and he told me that. Very smart. Could you believe that someone who's not Jewish, doesn't have Torah, actually has wisdom that's valuable? The Gemara says, Chokhmah bagoyim ta'amin. Torah bagoyim al ta'amin. And I always thought that that's a fascinating sentence. That means that there's not Torah by the goyim, there's Chokhmah by the goyim. What does that mean? There's not Torah, but there is Chokhmah.
It's innate wisdom from Hashem that these people have, because they didn't have the benefit of the Torah, so they have whatever they have.
And juxtapose that. So what is Torah?
So
What if that's wisdom? So what's Torah? And why do they have one and not the other?
So I think it's kind of like they're familiar with the Torah. They're familiar with the understanding of the Torah, but they're just not Torah followers.
Okay.
So they use the Torah as a way to think.
So they might have the wisdom of the Torah, but they don't have the Torah in terms of their actions. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Avi?
You gotta be more specific.
They can't connect to the Torah in a way. They can't use it for any dveikut. They can't connect to any of the kedusha.
So you're saying the same as Ray, but not from a perspective of mitzvot. You're saying the same as Ray, but from a perspective of connection to the wisdom. Good. Chokhmah and Binah. So Jonah is saying the same as you, AVP. Yeah? Chokhmah and Binah. Wisdom versus applied wisdom. Okay, Avi, what are you saying? Emunah, dvekut. So dvekut is similar. Emunah is something else. I think there's many ways of looking at this. But I will say one thing, okay? And that's very simple. You know what differentiates Torah wisdom from other wisdom? Other wisdom happens to be wisdom. Torah is absolute wisdom. Let me give you an example. I remember a bit from Jackie Mason. Jackie Mason. I love Shalom. Remember Jackie Mason? No, you're too young?
Come on.
I gotta hook you up on Jackie Mason. Jackie Mason.
He was my
His nephew, what?
Oh, better.
my rabbi in high school in LA. Shirley Mesa.
The Avi's rabbi was his nephew. Okay, so Jackie Mason was the quintessential Jewish comedian, because unlike other comedians that are Jewish and making jokes, Jackie Mason's jokes came from being Jewish. He gave you the Jewish, so he would say things, and this is really where I'm coming from with regards to this. He would say, he goes, today I read the newspaper. I read the newspaper. The newspaper said that you eat an egg will kill you in a second. You're dead before you finish the egg. Then 2 days later, you find out that the egg is the best thing ever. Makes you healthy. An egg a day keeps the doctor away. Wine will kill you. This gives you cholesterol, you get a heart attack. This gives you saccharin, you get cancer. He goes, it's not about not getting sick anymore. It's about choosing a sickness you like. That's a Jackie Mason. Yeah. Now, the idea that our wisdom oscillates, that today, wine is good for you, healthy. Tomorrow, terrible. Eggs, horrible. Eggs, amazing.
Like they used to think leeks were good for you. It's good for the bowel.
Yes,
it's good for
cigarettes, fantastic. They help you digest, except the fact that your digestion system now is cancer, and you're gonna gotta cut it all out. So it's amazing for digestion until they need to replace it with a plastic lung and whatever. So
Apple. They said also those were going to kill us. They said red apples give cancer. They said milk was no good for you.
at a certain point, everything is disaster. Now, that's the difference. You see, Chokhmah, when it comes from a human source, is limited by our brains, by our knowledge, and also by our lack of knowledge. Why do they keep oscillating? Because they know this about an apple. Then they find out that. So they're like, oh, okay, we got to change the Chokhmah. And then what happens? They find out, actually, it does increase your triglycerides, but it's the good. I love that. You ever hear that? They're like, it has fat, but it's the good fat. I always wanted to meet a giant fat guy, and you say, yo, you're fat. He goes, yes, but it's the good fat.
It's all the avocado.
He's filled with just good fat, but he's a blob walking. But he's very healthy. Okay, so why? Because he only ate good fats. All right. So my friends, this idea that we constantly change back and forth, that type of chokhmah, is the type of chokhmah which is human in nature, because there's always another piece that you don't have, you don't know. So we keep changing our knowledge. So there's It's the same thing with morality, with ethics. Every 5 minutes we've decided this is good, no, that's not good, no, this is good, no, actually this is terrible, that's a bad thing. Working hard used to be the best thing ever. Now, no, don't work hard, work smart. No, don't work hard or smart, collect welfare paychecks. Okay, so my friends, so the reason why the Gemara is telling us this is because there are chachamim amongst the nations of the world. In fact, it stands to reason that Haman's friends were also Amalekites. And yet, there could be chokhmah there. Maybe perhaps the Gemara would be telling you that there are wise men amongst Haman's camp. A second idea, actually, is that actually what the Gemara over here is telling you is that these chachamim that spoke to Haman were not drawing from the chokhmah bagoyim well. They were drawing from something else. Continues the Gemara. If Mordechai is from a seed of the Jewish people.
We know he's Jewish.
Excellent question. We're going to get to that in just a second. You started falling before him, right? You're going to definitely continue to fall. Why? Amrulo. If it comes from other tribes, maybe there's a chance you'll be able to overcome him. However, from these 4 tribes, Yehuda, Benjamin, Ephraim, Menashe, if he comes from one of those 4 tribes, you're murfed. If you started falling, you're never getting up ever again. Now, let me point out, I want to say this because I think this is really, really important. Im Mizera Yehudim. Zera Yehudim could mean the seed which is Jewish, but it could also mean seed which is the tribe of Yehuda. So Im Mizera HaYehudim, they weren't saying if he's Jewish. That's the answer to your question, Jonah. We knew he was Jewish. That's the whole reason why there was a Gezerah against him. Okay? But the question was, which tribe is he coming from? However, the Gemara actually expands it wider than just Yehudim, and expands it to Zera Yehudim, Yehuda, Benjamin, Ephraim, Umenashe. Any of these, you're not winning. Now, I love to say this, by the way. Why those tribes? Is that what you're going to ask? Why those tribes? Yehuda, the pasuk says the Gemara. Why? Because the pasuk says, "Dichtiv yadecha be'oref oivecha." When it comes to Yehuda, Yehuda has the might that his hand holds the scruff of the back of the neck of his enemies. However, what about Benjamin, Ephraim, and Menashe? On them it says, "Lifnei Ephraim, Benjamin, Menashe, orat guratecha." The pasuk says that in front of these tribes, Hakadosh Baruch Hu shows his tremendous might. But the question is, why? On Yehuda, I understand. Yehuda's always in his own category. He's the king, he's the lion, he's the strongest one. Got it. King of the jungle. I understand. However, when it comes to the other 3, so you found me a pasuk that says it. But why does that pasuk say it?
They come from Rachel.
Excellent. The children of Rachel have the power of being saved from Enabisha, from the evil eye. The power of Esav comes from the fact that they could present the Jewish people in a negative light. Because remember, everything is always dependent on the seesaw. So if the Jews are presented in a negative light in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how would that happen? How would they be able to do such a thing? This is crazy. We know that every shevet, every tribe has its angel. You know what else has its own angel? Gemara says, every blade of grass. Every flower, it's got its own angel. Now, in a simplistic understanding of angel, you're just imagining bazillion wings and halos just covering the whole lawn, even more than the deer in deal. However, like we've explained already many times from the Maharal, the idea of an angel is an isolated will of God.
One action.
Every malach is an isolated will of God. So that means, if there's one blade of grass and it's growing, what do you know? Hashem wants it to grow. That's an angel. So when God wants something on high, how does it happen here? That will, as it is mishtalshel, as it descends through the many different levels of the heavens towards the earth, that thing becomes a malach, an angel, a messenger. And that will now expresses itself as this piece of grass sprouting through the earth, getting the necessary. The other seed, no. This one, yes. That's a decision from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Crazy. Everything that happens, that's what we mean when we say the Malach Raphael, the angel of healing. There's no angel that has any power. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, only God. Raphael means Raphael. Heal God. God's healing. The angel Raphael is Hashem. It's just that God is dictating from on high that to this person that they should feel better. That's the angel Raphael. When that happens, when he restores kidney function, when brain function comes back online, when the guy's heart starts to beat again, that is Raphael. That's the will of God being expressed. Esav, we know, is the counterpoint to Yaakov. What does Yaakov represent in the world? Torah. Hakol, kol Yaakov. Yadayim, Yidei Esav. So Esav is the counterpoint, countermeasure to Yaakov. Are you starting to understand? What is the power, therefore, of Esav? What is the angel of Esav? That which stands against the success of the Torah. What would we call that?
Satan.
And what? Give me another name. What is our biggest challenge when it comes to doing mitzvot? Yetzer hara. Except that the Gemara tells us, Hu Yetzer hara, Hu Hasatan, Hu Malach HaMavet. The Yetzer hara is also the Satan, is also the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death. And the Gemara says, what does that mean? Yored umefateh. He comes down and he seduces. He puts this in front of you. He makes you make the sin. Ole umekatreg. He goes up and he snitches on you in the heavenly court. What is he called there? The Satan. What do we say on Yom Kippur? Hashem, you got turn away the Satan. Ve'al yastin alenu. Let him not prosecute against us. Yored umefateh comes down and seduces. Ole umekatreg goes up and reports about it. Snitches. Yored unetel neshama. He comes back down and he takes the person's soul. This angel is one angel. But we have another name for this one angel. This other angel is also called Saro Shel Esav. The angel of Esav.
Is this who Yaakov battles?
When do we find the battle between the angel of Esav and Yaakov? When he goes back over the river and he goes to pick up the last vessels, he's left alone. Vayivateh Yaakov levado. He's left alone. He's without everybody else. What happens? The angel of Esav attacks him.
Attacks who?
Attacks Yaakov. Remember, and they're wrestling the whole night, right? Remember that? And he hits him in the thing. And they get Yidan Hashem, exactly. Guys, ready for this? Ready for this?
I'm good.
Ready for this, guys? Come on. What does the pasuk say when the angel is fighting against Yaakov all night?
Let me go. I gotta go back up.
Before that, before he decides to leave, what does the angel realize?
Oh no, he names him after.
Vayar, and he saw Kilo Yacholo. He saw that he could not defeat him, right?
He was fighting against Yaakov.
Fighting against Yaakov. Fighting against Yaakov himself as a human being.
Okay.
So the angel of Esav is fighting against Yaakov. Vayar, and he saw Ki Lo Yacholo. He could not best him. Look at the pasuk again now. If this guy Mordechai is mizeh Yehudi Mashiach Yilot and you start to fall before him, Lo Tuchalo. That is a hearkening back to the same words. Lo Yachol Lo. He saw he could not best him. Lo Tuchalo. You got it?
Wow.
So what is the power of Esav? It is in the representation of Yaakov in a bad light. What is the power of the Yetzer hara? That he could see you do something bad, go up and tell God about it. Right? So it is in his power to see you in a negative way that gives the angel that power. The problem is, what's the problem? The problem is that Benjamin, Ephraim, and Menashe are blessed with the Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Ale'ayin. They have this protection from Ayin Hara. So from these tribes, they said, there's no chance that you're going to beat him. If there are any other tribes, you'll be. Now, by the way, it's fascinating now that we've drawn this parallel of you asher lo yuchalo, or you won't be able to defeat him lo tuchalo. Now you start to notice that many of the things that happens in Haman are also things that happen in the angel. What does he say? I see, right? Yaakov is left alone. What does Haman say to Achashverosh? Yeshno am echad, there's one nation. Mifurad u'mifurad b'chol benayim. It's separated from all the others. So Haman also uses the argument of separation to be able to get what he wants from Achashverosh. It's fascinating. There's many things like this, but we'll carry on hopefully later. Okay, says the Gemara. You're going to fall, you shall surely fall before him. Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai says, why does it say nafol tipol? It should just say nafol. You fell. Answers the Gemara, Amrulo, umazu, these people, this nation, they're compared to the dust of the earth, and they're compared to the stars in the sky. Kish and Yordin, when they fall, Yordim ad afar, they fall all the way to the earth. But when they're on the rise, Olin ad lekochavim. So what they said was, it's not if he's Jewish you're not going to get him, or if he's from whatever you're not going to get him. What they said is, if he's Jewish and on the fall, ride that ride. Because when they fall all the way. Jews. When we fall, we get to a Holocaust. When we fall, you're chased out of your own country, your own home. We don't do vanilla. Either top of the pile or bottom of the heap. Okay? It's only one or the other. So that's why they say to him, if you're falling, nafol, however much you're falling is not enough. Nafol, tipol. And by the way, they were right. Sorry?
That's why last week when we learned Mordecai, he came back and he put back on his
He didn't want to
sacrifice, and he didn't want to be on top.
He didn't want to halt the fall. Exactly. Nafol, tipol lefanav. So what did he do? He fell. They told him, you've been humiliated, and there's poop on your head, and you walked him through the streets. You're not done. You're going to continue to fall because they read it. Now, let's go back to what we said before. We called these people his wise men, right? We called them this Chachamav. One of the reasons why they're called Chachamav is because of all the wisdom. Where does this wisdom come from?
Not the Torah.
From the Torah.
Oh, from the Torah.
This wisdom came from the Torah. So there's many people that he has advising him. But you know what the Chachamav told him? They were able to plug into, number one, Mizera Yehudim, that these four tribes from the Torah we know have this protective shield. And they were also able to plug into the Kochavim and the Afar, so they were drawing something from the Torah. It wasn't their own wisdom. So which wisdom are we pointing out from his advisors? The wisdom that actually was sourced in the wisdom of the Torah. So that's the second approach to the Gemara before. I want to add one last piece before we move on. And that is something which is very painful when people have to recognize it. Haman comes home. Do the people in his house yet know what's happened?
They must.
No, because he
What
has
do
to.
you mean?
He has to tell them.
But the daughter knew.
The daughter's dead. She didn't tell anybody.
Oh, she didn't tell anybody.
She didn't. She jumped off the roof.
No.
What did she do? SMS on the way
It
down?
was in front
No,
of the house. What do you mean?
Yeah.
From on the roof.
Yeah, like
She,
yeah, Ma, shoot.
she didn't even
Shoot
walk
down
back
with
in the
you.
You didn't
house.
see them, that Haman was leading Mordecai.
Clearly not. If they did, what does he have to tell them the story?
Right.
It says he comes back to the house. Vayisaper lahem, and Haman tells him.
He saw his daughter jump though, because you said he came home morning.
Haman does.
Yeah.
But they don't know.
Wow.
They don't know what's going on.
She's a pancake right outside the front door.
True, but they don't know. They don't know. They're living in a palace, right? Haman's one of the richest men in the world. You know, they don't know. They have no idea. And the proof they don't know is Vayisaper.
But that's even more
Vice
unrealistic
means-
that she threw the bucket on top of him from the palace, which is usually, even if you think about it, set back or whatever. Like
Well,
that,
she's
you
also
know.
taking a poop, so you probably don't want to do that. You know, they say you don't poop where you live. She's probably going right to the edge of the item over there as far as she
You
can.
would think like she has a handmaid next to her and says, "Hey, you hold it."
I'll give her that information next time I meet her. I tell her, look, let me add this to your list of regrets.
So
Right?
Vaisaped means.
Clear, and he told them what happened.
Yeah, but that's like something like, oh, you never know what happened. Like, no, we know, but someone comes home and says, you never know what happened. No, we know.
That means that they didn't know to the extent,
Okay.
obviously, because he has to tell it to them.
You don't really hear someone jumping.
Yeah, a lot of noise, a lot of people. Could be.
Okay.
Okay? Why am I saying this? As far as they know, Haman is still on top of the world.
Right.
And he begins his story. Veisaper Haman Lezesh is his wife, Ohavav, and his really close friends. By the time he's finished his story, there are no Ohavav left.
Wow.
Yeah, the guy's low. He's not behind anymore. I'm running away.
Wow, now they're just wise men and his.
Who's left?
His friends left him.
his friends gone, all gone.
There's a word for that.
All gone. You understand what I'm saying? His wife is here, okay, and Chachamav, the people who are his Chachamim.
By the way,
That means the people he's paying to give him advice, they're still here.
Didn't his wife warn him before?
No, the opposite. They give him the advice. They gave him the advice to hang Mordechai.
I thought we learned that Zedesh said, if you do it, you better do it fast because you know it's either you or him.
No, we mentioned this, and this is the part where we're getting.
Okay, so we mentioned it early on and coming back
Yeah.
to this.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay. Now, are we all on the same page?
Yes.
But what a powerful and also painful lesson that from the beginning of your story until the end. And by the way, I have seen it happen with my own eyes. People in the community who they made a wrong move, and when you're playing with big money makes big mistakes. You bought a house, you bought another house, you did this, you flipped that, you did all that is small potatoes. But all of a sudden you take that and you decide, I'm now going to an office building and I shift from 5 to 10 million. I'm shifting to 200 million. And now I'm stretching every penny. You made the wrong decision on that. You got the wrong timing, the wrong whatever. You chose the wrong mortgage. Any of a million small decisions. And you're flattened like a pancake, like Haman's daughter. And all of a sudden, the guy comes home and you don't know, I just got the news. I lost the bank. I'm bankrupt. I have to sell the house. No one's coming to the party this afternoon. It's horrible. It is horrible. But that's ironically when you get to see who are the people that actually who actually love you. Okay. Beware those friends, my friends. Fair weather friends, they call them. Says the Gemara, this and the officers of the king came, vayavhilu le'avi et Haman. So that's a very strange and interesting word, right? Before we said maharu et Haman, hurry up, hurry him up. Now we're saying vayavhilu. Vayavhilu is a very strange word. They brought him and he was very confused. Behala means something which is mixed up. So when someone is, you imagine you tell a guy, quick, decide. You have to make this decision. Do this or do that. And the guy's like, he's frozen. That's what Haman is. Haman just came back. Worst day of his life. He got the poop on him. His daughter passed away. Mordechai is now on top of the horse. And now they're like, okay, come to the king. Come to the palace. He probably wanted nothing less than to go to the palace at that moment. But he also probably wanted nothing more than to go to the palace at that moment. Could you imagine a person so torn?
Let me ask you, maybe we learn it, maybe we don't, but did he freshen up? Or
No.
Did he go
No, that's the point.
he's
They're
in
not
the mood.
allowing him to
No.
do so. They're telling him, you need to come now, Vayavilu. So the pressure was so much, and everything he's going through, he winds up coming to the palace because they won't let him change. He's covered. He comes in his avelut, in his chafui rosh, to the party. By the way, you know what the hard part is? It will be a nice thing if you're Hazi, a guy who passes gas, and there's 50 people in the room. You look around, who did that, Here, there ain't nobody else. The two of us were already here. Right? Me and Esther. Now you walked in. You brought a beautiful, you did toilet. Okay, let's go. Oh, Ray got that.
Yes.
All right, let's go. Let's carry on. The Gemara continues. So she comes, Haman comes. They sit down. Achashverosh says, okay, we had the party yesterday. You told me one more day, you want another day to tell me what you want to ask? Another party? I'm at another party now with Haman. Can we make this quick? It smells terrible in here. Yalla, what do you need? What do you want? So Esther finally reveals what she wants. And she says, Kinim Kairu, we need to look at this. Find the pasuk on the side. Okay? On the side. Yeah, left. The outside column. Kinim Kairu anivami. For me and my people have been sold. Lashmid, la'arog, la'abed. To be wiped out, to be killed, and to be destroyed. If the king would have decided to enslave all the Jewish people like in Egypt, to make us all servants and handmaids. There you go, Ray. Okay? Nimkarnu. If we sold in those ways, Hecherashti, I would be quiet. Ki en atzar shoveh benezek hamelech. Because the enemy is not, he doesn't care, it doesn't bother him that the king is actually being damaged by this decision. You wipe out all these people, we're a resource. The Jewish people, if you would tell me that you're going to enslave all the Jewish people, okay, I can understand that. That's a business decision that the king is making. But you're going to wipe us all out? That just tells me that Haman's advice to you is not advice that comes from a place where he's recognizing what you want, or what you need, or what's good for you as the king. Okay? So this is what Esther says to him. Amra lo tsar ze eneno shoveh benezek shel melech. This guy, ena tsar shoveh, this guy who's an enemy, is not shoveh benezek hamelech. He doesn't weigh up or value, right, what the damage to the king. Ikni ba bevashti v'kitala. He was jealous of Vashti and he killed her. Hashta ikni bididi. Now he's jealous of me. Umibayle miktili, and he wants to kill me.
So it was Haman's decision to kill?
No,
Vashti?
so it was his advice.
Oh, it was.
Yes. The Gemara says earlier, Vayome Memuchan, and we learn who's Memuchan. Memuchan is Haman. Okay? Now, I want to point this out. I remember reading this Gemara for the first time and thinking to myself, okay, let's try to understand. She's trying to suggest now to Achashverosh that this guy doesn't have your best interests at heart. Not with the Jewish decree, but also not in general. You know why? He was jealous of Vashti and he had her killed. He's now jealous of me. He's having me killed. What's he jealous of? Surface level.
Physical.
He's jealous of the fact that there's a closeness between you, the king, and someone else other than himself. So the fact that it's his wife doesn't make a difference to Haman. So he's just jealous that there's someone else that has his ear that he likes or loves more than him. So you got to get rid of them because they're competition for the favor of the king. That's one opinion as to what Achashverosh, as to what Esther is suggesting to Achashverosh. What other idea could there possibly be? My second idea is that maybe she was trying to intimate or to hint that maybe Haman has a crush on you, Achashverosh. Iknibe, he's jealous of Vashti, he's jealous of me. He wants our position, wife of the king.
Wow. He wakes you up in the middle of the night.
Right? Middle of the night, you're sleeping. Who's in your bedroom? This guy Haman, that's where he's coming from? What's going on? Remember, all of the Megillah works with the inner workings of the mind of Achashverosh and what he thinks is going on. So I remember reading this Gemara, I was thinking, wow, I wonder if that's what Esther was trying to chuck into Achashverosh's. The guy's not your friend. He's attracted to you. All right? Maybe that's another pshat in the Gemara. And that's why he wants to kill me. He's going to try and kill anyone that's with you. The Gemara continues. Yom Melech Achashverosh. And the king Achashverosh said, Le'Esther HaMelka. The king Achashverosh says to Esther the king, to the queen. The Gemara asks, what does it mean, Vayomer Achashverosh, Vayomer Le'Esther? And he said, what is the two times when we're saying the word Vayomer again and again? I'm going to be about, but in the beginning he spoke to her through Turgeman, through a translator and a spokesperson. Why? Because who are you? You're a nobody. Kivan de Amrale.
I'm sorry. Do you mind saying that again? Who spoke to who?
When Achashverosh spoke to Esther, he
Yeah.
used to speak to her through a translator or a spokesman.
When they were married.
When they were married. And you'll see why in a second.
Okay.
Kivan de Amrale midibet Shaul Katina. Once he said to her, she said to him, I come from the house of Shaul, okay?
This is
Which
just
meant,
now.
just now, that she's also royal. She's also a queen.
Now he can talk to her one minute.
Miyad vayomer leEsther HaMalka. He spoke personally to Esther HaMalka. Now, it's hard for us to understand this idea. How could there be a possibility that a husband's not speaking to his wife?
Time.
Ever. And every time he is, he's speaking to a translator.
Do they not speak the same language?
Well, I would imagine that they do. They both lived in the same city of Shushan.
It's a status.
It was about status, okay? So you're not worthy of speaking to the king.
Okay.
You understand that?
Sure.
Now, all of a sudden, she's a royal. Okay, now you can speak to her directly. I remember reading this Gemara and thinking to myself, what an incredible lesson. Why? You see that all the problems between Achashverosh and Esther disappear the minute they're actually talking to one another. How many problems could be avoided in marriage if people were capable of speaking to one another and not through a translator, not having things get lost in translation? How many things are dependent on a lack of communication and personal understanding between a husband and wife? Listen, new guy, newly married, you gotta write that down,
Can
okay?
I just ask you this question?
Everything is communication, yes.
It seems like they have a functioning relationship in order to put together a party to.
I love you,
have an
I love you,
understanding
but
of-
his wife hasn't been to visit him in over 30 days. So if you call that a functioning relationship, I have
What do
to
you
question
mean?
the
Why?
functioning
I
of your relationship.
I don't understand that.
He hasn't seen her in 30 days. She's
didn't know that.
Mordecai's like going to the king. She's like, I can't go into the
haven't been
king.
called.
I haven't been called in 30 days.
Oh, but now they have.
Not only that, he's sleeping with each woman after next, and he sends them away, and then he decides if he wants to call them back by name, then they come back. This is a functioning relationship. He's stealing people's wives from their home.
Ideal functioning relationship.
Exactly. And he's married to a lizard. Okay, fine, let's move on. Carry on. Says the Gemara. The Gemara says, "Vatomer Esther ish tsar ve'oyev Haman harazeh." This bit of the Megillah, it's in my mind the most underrated element of the plot twist in the story. Ish tsar ve'oyev, a man, tsar ve'oyev, who is a competitor, an adversary, ve'oyev, and an enemy. Haman harazeh. This wicked Haman. Amar Rabbi Elazar says, "Melamed shaitan mechava klape Achashverosh." When she started the sentence, who's she pointing at? She's pointing at Achashverosh. Now look at the line here. Ish tsar ve'oyev, a man who's an adversary and an enemy. Haman harazeh. Why doesn't she just say?
Haman.
He said, "Who is it?" She should have said, "Wicked Haman." She doesn't. She says, "This wicked man."
Giving him a little.
Haman harazeh. Says the Gemara, there's a comma there. Ish tsar ve'oyev, one, you, and comma, Haman harazeh. She's actually pointing at Achashverosh. You did this. You want to know who sold, who killed, who's going to kill you, the queen and all of her people? You did this. Ish tsar ve'oyev. She's not talking about Haman. But as she points to Achashverosh, what happens? Says the Gemara, Ba malach, the satar yada, an angel comes and moves the hand.
Like you have this ear right now. Don't screw it up by your emotions.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
Did she
now,
overstep her boundaries?
so why would she do that? This strategically is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Right.
You're trying to get the king to, right? Why is she pointing at Achashverosh?
Gives him a little musar while this is going on. This happened right on the.
Musar to a guy who kills his wives? Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, she's a G, so she was saying this, and then the guy said, Dachilak, it's...
No, I'm asking, why did she do that in the first place? By the way, anyone who hears that is offended that the views expressed here are not
Oh my God.
necessarily the views of the channel. Ray, say it again. One more time. She points at Achashverosh. What's the whole plan here?
We gotta kill Haman.
Yeah, but the whole plan is to get Haman, to put daylight between Haman and
And
Achashverosh,
to be on the good side of
and to be on the good side of Achashverosh. Now you're like, you know who wants to kill the Jews? You! Ish tsar ve'oyev.
horrible move. Yeah.
The angel comes, saves the day. Moves the hand. Good, I get the angel. And by the way, like we already understand, on one level, you imagine the wings and the halo and pushes the arm. But remember, it could also mean that Esther
She got the
rethought it in that second, that ability to be able to overcome her emotion in a split second and change her mind. She's like, you know, that also could be called a malach, as we explained before. But I'm asking, what was she thinking? Like we would say it in the language of Gemara, mi'ikara from the beginning, ma'ikasal kadaitach. What was she thinking?
Well, now she thinks she's on the same level as Achashverosh because now she's royalty and claimed that she's
Yeah, but she's royalty from some previous time. She doesn't own this throne. She don't have the army with her. Answer is very powerful. What's the answer? The same answer, the same problem as we read about when it comes to Yoshiyahu. We read about Yoshiyahu on Tisha B'Av. He was the most righteous king. Could have been Mashiach. And it says, Ruach Hapenu, Mashiach Hashem, the breath of our nostrils, the anointed one of God, right? Nilkad b'shchitotam, was captured in their traps. And they threw so many spears at him that his body became like a sieve. Right, you know, sieve with little holes. That's how many spears and arrows penetrated Yoshiyahu. What was Yoshiyahu's mistake? Gemara tells us something fascinating. The Jewish people were on a very high level. Yoshiyahu was a tzaddik. The king of Egypt and the king of Ashur, the Assyrian king and the Egyptian king, were having war with one another. The king comes to Yoshiyahu and he says, listen, I want to go through, I have war with that guy.
Right.
What does he tell him?
Go around.
You're not passing through my land. The guy says to him, I have no problem with you. I don't want to do anything to do with you. I'm making a treaty with you. I only want to go fight that guy. He tells him, you're not coming into my land. If you come into my land, I'm fighting against you. Why is he doing that?
We learned this.
We learned this. Why? Remember?
Unique.
Why?
Because if you come into his doors, like, you might as well open up the war to your people.
No, not. That's not yet it.
Okay?
It's not a logical answer. Yoshiyahu remembered the pasuk in the Torah. The pasuk says, if you're behaving in the right way, "V'cherev lo ta'avor ba'artzechem," and a sword will not traverse your land. What does it mean a sword won't go through your land? If you mean war, say war. What does the pasuk mean? Not even for the sake of war, but a sword won't enter into Israel. Even if it's on its way to do war with somebody else. Yoshiyahu thought that the people were on the level to have that promise from Hashem. He goes to the Navi. The Navi says, you're wrong. We're not there. We're good. We're not there. He doesn't listen to the Navi. He thinks the Navi does not in touch with the people. Doesn't have his finger on the pulse. Doesn't know how good the people are. So he disobeys the Navi. He tells the king, you're not coming into the land. By the way, for what? Because he really believes in the Pasuk, but he also did not understand that the Jews were not on the level that he thought. Inside their houses, on the inside, they weren't like they were on the outside. So what happened when he denied Cherev Ba'atzechem? Yoshiyahu's mistake was not a mistake of heresy. Yoshiyahu's mistake was a mistake in misunderstanding the situation. Is that clear?
Read the room.
He could not read the room properly. If he'd read the room properly, his move was right. But he didn't read the room properly. That's what's happening with Esther. The Jewish people fast. The Jewish people do Ta'anit. They go Majnun. They're praying. Look what happened. All of a sudden, Haman is now coming into the party, poop on his head, from leading Mordechai through the streets. What is Esther thinking? The whole story.
98% of the battle.
The whole story shifted.
Right.
Who's in control? The Jews are in control.
Right.
Who's going to fall in front of the Jews? Whoever starts with the Jews, like we said earlier. If you started to fall in front of the Jews, Napol Tipol, Lefanav, you're going to fall before them. So she, without hesitation, without fear, says, Ish Tsar Ve'oyev, and she points at Achashverosh.
Wow.
Thinking that there was no...
We're there.
She thought we won.
Right.
We're there. We won.
Wow.
We fasted. Hashem turned it around. So at this point, not only does Haman have no power, neither does Achashverosh. And the Malach's like, yeah, but no. We're not there. We're good. We're not that good.
Right.
Isn't that powerful? So she misunderstood the situation, and therefore she pointed the wrong person. Yeah.
The word sad, isn't that also minister?
That's with samach. This is with a sadi.
Got it.
Okay? Okay. Let's do the last piece and then we'll finish for today. And the king gets up in his anger. Now, let's take a look, because you need the whole pasuk to understand this Gemara. Turn over to the left part, okay? Haman is terrified, white-faced from the king and the queen. I love that line because it says Hamelech v'Hamalka.
After he's black.
All of a sudden, sorry, what?
Nice.
Racist, sexist, again. Guys, we're gonna get canceled. Guys, you understand this? The Gemara is telling us over here. All of a sudden, Haman niv'at. What was Haman terrified from? Milifnei. What is the end of that pasuk? Milifnei Hamelech v'Hamalka. What does that mean?
Both of them now.
What he was terrified was that now they're a team, and he's on the out. It was Hamelech v'Haman throughout the whole Megillah, right? We read about Hamelech v'Haman, v'Haman v'Hamelech, the two of them. All of a sudden, Haman sees Niv'at milifnei Hamelech v'Hamalka. The two of them are on the same page against him. V'Hamelech kam b'chamato. The king gets up in his anger, so he's so mad he throws his chair back, gets up. From the party of wine, El Ginat Abitan. He goes out to the orchard. The Haman amad levakesh al nafsho. So Haman stands up, or to beg for his life. Me'ester Hamalka ki ra'a ki kalta alav hara'a metamel, because he sees that whatever the king's desires to do against him are going to come true. The Hamelech Shav says the next pasuk, and the king returns Meginat Abitan from the orchard El beta mishteh to the house, to the wine party. And Haman is falling now onto the bed that Esther's on it. And the king says, what, you want to take? You want to vanquish the queen with me in the house? The words came out of the king's mouth, and they covered the face of Haman. Now, let's take a look. Says the Gemara, Haman, the Melech, gets up in his anger. Then it says, V'Melech shav miginat abitan, and the king returns from Ginat Abitan. Says the Gemara, what does it mean that he got up and he came back? We already know where he is. You tell me he went to the orchard. Now you tell me the king returned. I know. Where did he return from? The orchard. Why do you tell me twice? He gets up and he goes to the orchard and he comes back from the orchard. Makish shiva likima. We are comparing his leaving to his coming back to his leaving. So he went to the orchard, came back from the orchard. That means there's a similarity between his going to the orchard, which was in anger, and his coming back from the orchard, which is also in anger. Makima b'chema, just when he got up, he was angry. Af shiva b'chema, when he returned, there was another anger. This is fascinating. He goes outside to the orchard, and he sees people chopping down his priceless trees. They're cutting down the special bustane trees. He has these beautiful trees in his garden, and they're chopping down the trees. Imagine, what are those trees? The bonsai tree, the Japanese. It takes you 50 years to do. Beautiful trees he's got there, and there's people chopping them down in his private orchard. The heck are you doing? Why are you chopping down my trees? These were angels dressed up like men. A miracle occurred. Amrule. What are you talking about? Who do you think you are? The Fakdinan Haman. You know who told us to do this? Haman told us to do this. Who do you think you are? They told the king not. It's not recognizing that he was the king, Yani. Who do you think you are to tell us to stop? Our orders come directly from Haman. Remember, what's the whole story for Achashverosh?
His head.
Power, paranoia. What's going on? Who does Haman think he is? Now listen to the words. He comes back. He walks back in. He walks back in the house. That Haman thinks he's in charge in this house. He comes in this house. The Haman nofel al hamita, and Haman is falling al hamita on the bed. Now the Gemara points out, what should it say? Haman nafal. Haman fell, past tense. But it doesn't say nafal, it says nofel. Nofel means is falling. Right? Nafal mi ba'el, it just said he fell. The malach comes and he pushes Haman onto the bed that Esther is on. So the Gemara says, right? Amar vai mi beta vai mi bera. Wow, I can't believe this. What's going on inside the house? What's going on outside the house? The commentators explain that what's the Gemara telling us? He's nofel. Nofel means in a constant state of nefilah. Every time he tries to get up off of the bed, the angel pushes him back down onto the bed. Simple understanding is that this had to carry on until Achashverosh would walk back in, so you could see Haman still on the bed. Okay? Another understanding about this, which is again a little bit crazy, is that the opposite. It wasn't the point that he should see Haman still on the bed, but rather that it should seem like Haman is rising and falling on the bed.
Right.
So it looks like
Worse than it
he's
was.
actually in middle of an act with the queen. And then that's what he's saying. Hagam lichboshet hamalka imi babayit. Not that you're trying to kill her while I'm here, but are you trying to bed her while I'm here?
Yeah.
And that's the Haman nofel vai mi beta vai mi bera. Woe from the inside. What's going on? I can't believe what's happening inside my house with my wife, outside my house with the trees.
The only thing missing is the moving trucks to have Haman come in. Like basically, he's taking everything.
Exactly. Now the Gemara says, and again, by the way, the simple explanation over here is that the Vaymi Beta Vaymi Bera means that Achashverosh was saying, I can't believe what's going on out there with the trees. I can't believe what's going on here. But according to what we're saying over here, that it made it seem like he was actually in the act with Esther, because he keeps trying to get off the bed, and then it looks like he's Vaymi Beta Vaymi Bera means he's saying, wow, woe from Haman inside and from outside. He's actually witnessing the act of lovemaking, if you will, from Haman to his wife, and he can't believe it. He's like, right here in my house at my party, I can't, right? And that anger of what Achashverosh thought he was seeing results in the immediate response, right? This is how we end. Vayomer Charvona. So as soon as he says those words, Charvona says to him, I have a piece in unrelated news. I just want you to know that Haman built a 50 amah pole to hang Mordechai. Remember Mordechai, the guy who tried to save your life? He built a gallows to kill people who save you.
Who said this to him?
Charvona.
Is he an angel?
Charvona is either a servant or an angel. Okay. One opinion is Charvona is Daniel. Remember we said that Daniel was a scribe to the kings, including Achashverosh? So Charvona comes in, he's like, I just have a piece of news for you right now. Unrelated news. There's a pole outside, erected for this guy, for the guy who saved your life, right? That Haman is trying to kill the people who are on your side. What does he say immediately with that bit of information, with this bit of white-hot anger that he has in seeing what's going on? He says, right? Hang him on. Chilu alav. Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Af Charvona Rasha be'ota etzahaya. Rabbi Elazar says, who's Charvona? He's also part of this gezerah. He was also part of this thing. In order to hang Mordechai, he was one of the people that gave Haman that answer. Once he saw that everything was hitting the fan, miyad barach, he ran away, and now saving themselves. By the way, if you know anything about monarchies, this is exactly what happened. This was the court intrigue. It was always about alignment.
Right.
Remember what we said about earlier?
Game of
Maybe the reason why no one's on my side is because I didn't reward the guy last time, and now they're going to jump ship and go to the other guy. והיינו דכתיב, וישלך עליו ויחמו מידו ברוח יברח. And that's why it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you have a Rasha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chucks on him all the punishment that he deserves, and even the people that are used to be with him, the people that were his right-hand man, are running away. And the Gemara says he hung him, and then his anger abated, and that's where we're going to leave off for today at 16
So I want to ask you a question, right?
Yes.
So like we learned, I guess very base level, Megillah, that after the siyum with Esther and Ahasuerus and Ahasuerus gets so upset that he kills him right away. Oh yeah, you're gonna do this to my wife and our people? Off with your head.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you learn baseline. But now it seems like that had nothing to do with it. It was that and this and that and the cutting and the falling on top of your wife. That it's kind of like it was an afterthought.
No, it's a perfect storm. That's the point. So, like, if you're missing any one of these ingredients, maybe it doesn't go that way.
Right.
Like, as an example, let's say the king is so angry, right? But there's no pole. What does he do to Haman? He throws him in jail. If you remember Esther, I don't know if you remember this, we said that one of the reasons why Esther invited Haman and the king together to the banquet, we had many reasons, right? One of the reasons why she invited both of them to the banquet, it says because she knew that he was a king who was hafachfach. He was always shifting sides. So since she knew that about him, what did she want? She wanted Haman there. Because if Haman's not there and she convinces Achashverosh against him, by the time he gets Haman, he might change his mind.
Right.
By the way, we all know people like this. Yeah? That you get the job, unless you sign him, you don't have it. Because 3 seconds later, someone else says something in his ear, he changes his mind again and again and again. Okay? Now, since that's true, we're now seeing the importance of everything that happens here. Now, we have to deal with one thing, which we'll deal with next week. What do we say? Aru, Baruch, Mordechai, Aru, Haman, Baruch, Mordechai, Berucha, Esther, Arazeresh, Berucha, Esther, right? Arurim, Kol HaRashaim, Beruchim, Kol Yisrael, V'gam, Charvona, Zachur Latov. And we also remember Charvona for the good. But I thought Charvona was a bad guy on the side of Haman.
He's the guy who gave the last bit of information.
Maybe he's the guy that sealed the deal. Okay, so we'll have to we'll have to figure out how we deal with the Gam Charvona Zachur Latov. How did that fit with this Gemara? On a simple level, just so we can end with this, is that what do we say in Ma'amar? Blessed is Mordechai, cursed is Haman. Cursed is Zeresh, blessed is Esther. Arurim Kol Hashem, all the wicked people should be cursed. Beruchim Kol Yisrael. Gam Charvona Zachur Latov. Charvona also is remembered for the good. It doesn't say he's a tzaddik.
Oh.
Charvona.
He said he did good.
It also doesn't say he's a Rasha. And that's what it means. The Gam Charvona Zachur Latov. He's not in the Arurim Kol HaRashaim because he was a part of the salvation. He's not in the Beruchim because he was also part of the Etzah. So that's why Charvona falls in this gray zone of Zachur Latov, not in blessed, not in cursed,
It can't be done yet.
but he's in Zachur Latov. No, that's not according to the opinion that it's Daniel. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen.